I don't think I've ever actually made a specific video that talks about burnout or the recovery of burnout or even my full burnout journey. Like, I have talked about obviously being burnt out on my channel, and I think it's very clear to see that if you watch me, you will see that I seem to be in this vicious circle of going in and out of burnout. The last few years I've really been in more of a survival mode. It's like fight or flight mode. And now that I'm kind of at the point where I can come out of survival mode, I'm absolutely exhausted, and I've definitely found myself the last few months, or probably even back last year when I moved warehouse, maybe November, I really think I've crashed and burned ever since that point. But I want to take you back a little bit to where my kind of burnout journey started from, in case you haven't heard it. It was around the time of my 40th birthday. So I'm about to turn 49 in July, so 9 years ago, I guess. And I distinctly remember it being on my 40th birthday, because I remember everybody else seemed to want to do something for my 40th birthday and I didn't want to do anything. Like, I was absolutely exhausted. I was kind of like a bit of a zombie at the time. I'd been put onto some anti-anxiety medication, Zoloft I think it was. And that medication just really made me neutral, like numb, kind of like I just felt nothing while I was on that medication. I couldn't really feel happy. I couldn't really feel sad. I didn't cry. I didn't seem to have any emotions at all. I just felt like literally like I was in this numb kind of zombie mode. And I will say that medication strongly helped my anxiety at the time. I was suffering really, really badly, to the point where I didn't want to go anywhere where I was surrounded by people and crowds. I didn't even like going into the shopping mall, let alone trying to go somewhere where there was a lot of people, like a concert or a big event or anything. I was at that point where I physically was kind of crippled into going places, and I didn't even want to go sit in a cafe, to be honest. I was afraid. So the anxiety was out of control at that point in my life, and I really did need that medication to help me. And I probably stayed on that medication for maybe a year and a half, probably a year and a half. But there's been times, I guess, since then that I've felt like my anxiety has risen up a little bit. And I do feel like I've been suffering a bit of anxiety again the last 6 months. But I'm really trying to work hard on it now, doing it myself naturally, because I'm very aware of it, but I really don't want to go back onto that kind of medication unless I really had to, because it zombifies me, and I don't like the way it makes me feel. And when I went onto the ADHD medicine, I had very similar symptoms when I was on that medicine as well, that I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work with me. But sometimes it makes it hard when you're kind of battling through and you're struggling through trying to self-manage. But go back to about when I was 40, I'd been through a very traumatic period of my life. We'd had this accountant for a few years. This accountant ended up very mentally unwell and ended up in a mental hospital himself. And with that, not just us, but every single client that accountant had, he just had made an absolute shambles of everybody's taxes for the last few years. We had to see a new accountant that took over his practice, and it cost tens of thousands of dollars for them to clean up his mess. And at the end of it, we were left with an extremely large tax bill that required us to sell our house, basically. We needed the money to be able to pay off the tax debt. That period of my life was so extremely stressful. It was just very, very traumatic for me, absolutely traumatic. And I'm still traumatized by taxes, and I still procrastinate doing taxes to this day because of the past experience that I had working with this past accountant. After the ordeal was over, we had to sell our house. We had to move into another house. We bought another house at the time. It was a smaller house than what we needed at the time, so we ended up buying a house, renting that one out, and then we rented a house that we wanted to live in. And by the time it all finished, I was just absolutely exhausted. I was also suffering a lot of health issues at the time. I had breast implants, and I was suffering from breast implant illness, which I didn't know at the time until I had them removed. And I had breast implants for 12 years. I'm not afraid of admitting that. It was something that I did, and they made me sick for the last 5 or 6 years that I had those implants. You know, it was basically like I was suffering from an autoimmune disease, but I didn't know what it was, and I can't tell you how many doctor's visits, Chinese medicine doctors, like the amount of ultrasounds and scans and blood tests and different things that I went through, you know, like trying to work out why I constantly felt so terrible and was in so much pain. And, you know, long story short, it ended up being the breast implants, and had those, once worked it out, that they had capsulized inside, I think that's how they say it, capsulized or something inside me, and they needed to be removed. I immediately started to feel better once those toxic implants were removed out of my body. So that whole period of my life was just one big traumatic, draining, physically and mentally on me, and I think I just pretty much crashed at the end of it. Totally burnt out, was exhausted with my work as well. I was family photographer at the time. While I was in this chronic pain, I was really struggling, you know, with the family photography, chasing small children around, trying to get their photos, carrying very heavy equipment. I used to do the odd wedding as well, and carrying around all this heavy equipment all day was very hard on my body. And mentally, I used to struggle a lot with my self-worth with the photography, and feeling worthy enough of charging money for my creative works. I really struggled with that, and there was a lot of kind of aspects, I think, which caused my burnout. And a lot of the time burnout does come from work-related tasks. And I think the problem is we get stuck, we end up doing this kind of work that we're not really enjoying very much at the time, and when we start to lose our passion for it, and when you start to lose your passion for the job that you're doing, and you're just going to it, and you're just working long hours, and you're not really feeling like you're getting much from it. And I was just getting constant anxiety from my work at the time, and so the whole lot of it, work, health, trauma, like moving house, like the whole works. By the time I just hit that, I was 40, and I just absolutely crashed. And I decided to take my time off my photography while I went and had my surgery to remove my implants, and then wanted to give myself like 6 weeks or so to heal after I had them off. So I'd been off before I had surgery, thought to myself, look, I'll give myself another 6 weeks to heal, then I'll go back to work. And during that 3 months off, while I was kind of not doing any photography, I've always been the type of person who looks around for some way to side hustle and make money. And that was where I found the reseller community on Instagram. I actually opened up my Instagram first, called it Back from Burnout, went anonymous for my first 1,000 subscribers on Instagram, totally anonymous page, and just almost used it for my own mental health, to go back and find some joy in things again. And I needed to do that anonymously, because I kind of felt like I was posting these geeky, ridiculous posts about my food, and I just needed to find a community where I felt like I was contributing to or something, but it was more my own personal self journey. And like I've left those posts on my Facebook, on my Instagram, and you can, if you scroll right back to the beginning of my Instagram page, you'll see some of those silly posts where I was just trying to find myself again and bring back some joy with cooking, whatever it was. I just needed to find some joy in my life again, because I was really flat. I was burnt out. I was depressed. I was anxious. I was, you name it, at that time. I had it. I had it. So my joy did start to come back when I found the reselling community, and I found a new passion. And after a few months of doing this reselling, I didn't want to go back to the photography. Like that just kind of, the photography almost brought me back memories of such a traumatic period of my life and such a painful period of my life that I didn't really want to go back to it. And I was finding this new joy doing reselling. And I found this new joy within this community on Instagram. And not only Instagram, I then found the community on YouTube. And I'd never done YouTube. I never had a YouTube account. I had done a little bit of YouTube in terms of watching videos on how to do things when I was learning my photography. Like I would Google how to do this with my camera or whatever, and it would direct me to a YouTube video and I would watch it. And that was the depths of my YouTube history. Like I nothing. I didn't even have a YouTube account. So when I did this reselling and I found all these resellers over on YouTube, and there was a lot of live streaming going back in the days when I started with my reselling, there was a lot of live streaming, and I found this community which started to bring back my joy, and I started to feel happy, and I started to enjoy it again, and I started to love it. And when I find something that I love, I dive right into it. I think it's also like an ADHD trait. You end up finding something that you really love doing, and then you hyper focus, and that's how I became with the reselling. I really, really like hyper focused on learning it and almost became obsessed with it. And I just wanted to do it all the time. And I loved the live streaming and having this online community, because for all the years before it that I'd worked from home, which was, since my daughter was born when I was like 24 years old, I'd just been doing jobs from home. And I never had a community like I had when I was with the reselling community. Like, I was in a few forums back in the day, but I was never in this like live community of people where you could see people and you could live interact. And it just brought me so much joy when I started the reselling. So I've been thinking back recently to that time, like when I was 40, and how I pulled myself out of that burnout and that terrible phase that I was in my life, how I actually pulled myself out of it. And I think back to how I started that Instagram page and how I started doing things that I loved again, meal prepping, cooking. I started eating healthy. I think I went on the Michelle Bridges diet. I joined the Fernwood gym there for a while and everything. And I physically had to push myself to do some of these things to make me feel good again. And once I start feeling good again, then I seem to be right. But when you're in that slump and you're in that zombie mode and you're in that feeling nothing and neutral, it's very, very hard to pull out of that mode. It almost becomes a full-time job in itself to actively work your way out of it. And that's how I feel I'm at the stage at the moment. I feel like my time and energy, because I've got such limited energy at the moment, I almost feel like my time and energy at the moment needs to be put again into myself in pushing myself out of how I'm feeling at the moment. But I guess how I'm feeling at the moment probably started a few years ago when I went through, my marriage was suffering, and then went through like a marriage separation. How long ago was that? Like 2.5 years ago now. And when I went through that marriage separation, I ended up like survival mode again, because I wasn't making enough money to go out on my own. My ex-husband and I, we had to live together for 18 months after we separated in 2 separate rooms of the house, which was extremely difficult. But I couldn't afford to move out, and I needed to wait until our house sale and our financials and everything were done before I could move out of that situation. And that put a lot of pressure. That put a lot of pressure on me. It was just, as you can imagine, it was an extremely stressful time. And I was in this survival mode of being like, my whole life is changing, as well as I have to make money now so that I can support myself financially as a solo woman. And that was something that I'd never had to do in the past. I'd had babies at 24, and I'd always been home with the kids and doing like side hustles to make a little bit of extra money to help pay with the extra things, or the kids' presents or birthday parties, or help towards some of the school fees, or my income was used to kind of supplement those kind of things. And so all of a sudden I'd gone from doing eBay reselling at this level that was working for me and I was finding joy in it, to having to push my eBay reselling to like a whole different level. But also I had to push it fast. Like when you're in survival mode, it's fight or flight. You've got no choice. I've either got to make more money and I've got to make it fast, or I have to go out and get a different job. And I didn't want to get a different job. Like, I loved the eBay reselling. I didn't want another job. I wanted to stay working for myself. I wanted to be able to prove to myself, and I guess maybe I even wanted to prove to everyone else that I could do it. And I had to push my eBay reselling to this next level. So these last few years, where you've probably watched me on my channel, and I'm sure many of you think I've been absolutely mad buying all these tens of thousands of books, and I've really just been in this mode of trying to find my feet. Like, I had to be able to push things and make money. And sometimes when you're in that mode, you don't really know what the best way to do it is. Like I just felt like I had to try things and do whatever I could do to make money. And I had to make that money fast. And when you need to make money fast, there's this, I don't like the word desperate, but there's this desperation level of, I need to make money fast and I need to make money now. And so sometimes when you do that, you can't have a slow growth, which is more ideal, especially in a reselling business. You slow grow into your business and, build up. You might list 20 a day and then go to 25 a day and 30 listings a day, however you want to do it. But when you're reselling, you have to constantly be replenishing your store. So as people buy things, you replenish it. And when you're in survival mode, sometimes you can't be so patient to wait to be able to just build the business nice and slowly at a pace and a rate that's going to keep the business in a nice control. When you're in survival mode, you will do anything that you need to do to be able to pay the bills. And, I've got 4 kids, and although the kids are older now and stuff, I've still got responsibilities and still have things to buy for them, even if it's not the same as having small kids. I've still got financial responsibilities with the children, even the older children who aren't living here. But, I just can't explain the survival fight or flight mode. And I don't think you really understand it unless you've been put into that position. But I was truly just like I have to list. I have to list as much as I can. You also are worried about money. And if for me, I was able to get a huge quantity of books in at the most minimal price. And so for me, it felt like I had this kind of security of all these books, so that if financially I couldn't go out and buy better books, I had a volume of books that I could make up for that. Like, with reselling, I guess there's 2 models to go. You do you're listing less items, but they're at a higher average sale price, or you're listing a volume of items at a lower average sale price. So for me, having these cages of books brought me some kind of security feeling that I might not have funds, I might not have the money to go out and buy top quality inventory. And if I don't have the money to buy the top quality inventory, then if I've got lower end items, then I can just list quantity. But where that put me, I guess, is into a heavy grind mode, a heavy hustle mode. And I don't like hustle culture. And I know sometimes it probably appears that I give off a hustle. Yep, you got to hustle on eBay. You got to hustle. It's not that I want to give off a hustle grind thing, but that's the life situation that I was in, where I truly didn't feel like I had any other options but to grind and hustle in a way that is not sustainable, if that makes sense. So before, when I was doing eBay reselling at a lower level, almost like a part-time level, I used to class myself as a full-time reseller because I didn't have another job. Like, that was my only job, but it was really only in a part-time capacity. And when you're doing it in a part-time capacity and you're spending a lot of hours on it because you want to and because you're passionate about it and because you're learning and you're seeing this growth, it's very different to pushing and grinding and spending like tens of hours into grind hustle mode with this feeling of anxiety and constant stress on you that you have to be able to meet the bills, and you have to be able to pay the rent, and you have to be able to buy your food, and you have to pay your car payment, and you have to keep everything running, and now you're paying a warehouse cost, and there's just so many different factors into it, and it's a totally different stress level on the body as well when you're in survival mode and fight or flight. And I think sometimes over the last couple of years, I've seen online that I sometimes get a little bit of criticism for the way that I run my business. And I think sometimes the people who are criticizing me have never been into a situation like I've been in, where it is fight or flight. And sometimes you just have to do whatever you can. And if that means listing volume of something at the time to be able to make your money, then like honestly, that's where you have to be. And also, I just want to say respect to anybody that is out there in that mode and pushing like that. And I'm thinking of you, and I promise you will get through it. But I guess I'm at the point now where, and I probably for 6 months, when I moved into the other warehouse, my business had started to go well, and I felt like I was coming out of that survival mode in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm now making money, and I'm able to feel like, oh, I've done this. I've been able to make this money. But now, how do I continue to make this money without staying in this grind hustle mode? I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I don't want to work like this, and I don't want to have this overwhelming feeling of these thousands of books that are just like this constant to-do pile for me. I like to be able to feel like I accomplish things, like, righto, I did this task, now on to the next one. But the way that I've had these tens of thousands of books at the moment feels like it's a never-ending task, and it feels like I never ever feel like I've accomplished doing and finishing something to move on to the next thing. I guess what I'm saying is grinding like this, it makes you lose the love of what you're doing because you're doing it for that survival mode, not because you love doing it. So back when I loved doing eBay and was doing it joyfully, I lost that joyful period, I guess, when I'm just hustling and grinding, and you feel like you're in the trenches. And my YouTube, I've always loved my YouTube more than I've loved eBay. I've never been shy to admit that. I absolutely love being on YouTube and building my own community and making videos and helping other people and trying to give value to other people and sharing my own experiences. I know it helps other people with and it makes them feel like they're not alone. And that's what I love about this channel, that the amount of comments and messages that I get from people who are in similar situations to what I've been through, and it makes them feel less alone. Like that makes me feel like I'm helping somebody else. But the problem is when I'm in survival mode of eBay grind, then also my videos start to feel like I'm creating videos on the same stuff because I don't have time to do anything else with my eBay except grind, the same tasks. Sort books, photo books, list books, sort books, photo books, list books. And it's just, I'm not getting out to do anything. I can't go really thrifting. What's the point in buying a lot of new inventory when I've got all this inventory here? There's all these catch-22s. So then I start to feel like I'm just making the same videos, which feels repetitive to me, and I don't want to do. I want to make different types of videos and talk about a whole variety of different things on this channel, not just make the same old eBay videos over on repeat. That's not the type of channel that I've ever wanted to be. So I think the last few months especially, I've definitely been struggling with burnout again. And, I don't know what to say. I've been struggling with it. I've been down. I've been flat. My energy levels have been low. I don't want to always go in and like I procrastinate. I sit in my car in the mornings for a long time drinking coffee before I even walk into the warehouse because it's so overwhelming when I walk in there, and even overwhelming, but just this constant to-do list. Like, oh, I just can't wait till I can walk in there and it's nice and clean and I don't have like a to-do list and I can actually do tasks in the business that I don't have time to normally do because I'm just doing this repetitiveness of sorting books, photographing books, listing books, sorting, photographing, listing. And reselling is a little bit of a repetitive business. But when I think back to when I found reselling, it didn't feel repetitive at all to me. I felt joyous, and now it doesn't feel joyous. I'm basically at the point where I can come out of survival mode, but I almost don't know how to come out of survival mode. Does that make sense? I've been in survival mode for the last few years, and now that it's time to come out, I'm exhausted and to the point of crashing again. Remember when I burned out that first time? I had to really focus in on my food, starting at the gym. I hate the gym, guys. I hate the gym. You know, even when I did the gym back then, I probably only did it for 6 months and then gave it away because I don't know, even though it makes me feel good at the time when I go, there's something about going to the gym that I seem to just struggle with. I struggle to maintain a relationship with going to the gym, if that makes sense. Moving the books to this pop-up bookstore is the first stage of that journey into helping me clear the weight that's been on me with the excess of books so I can take my eBay back to a more manageable level. Now that I'm out of survival mode, I can take my eBay back to a more manageable level that's enjoyable for me again. I've got so many other wonderful things going right in my life, and it becomes so frustrating when you feel like life is good for me. Life is good. My business is good. My relationship with Tom is great. I've got 4 beautiful children. I'm about to be a grandma. I don't want to feel like tired and like I've got no energy and flat and low and almost depressed. You know, like everything in my life is good. I'm so grateful for everything that I've got. And I just want to get back to building a life that I love and living a life that I love. And life is for living. And I don't want to feel flat or overwhelmed or like I've got weights on me with my business or that I feel trapped in my business now. I understand that I needed to go through that period when I'm in like a survival mode, and I'm so thankful that I've had all this inventory and that to do it. But going forward, I know that I can't survive in survival mode. Like, there has to be a point where I pull out of it. And it's scary, and maybe I have to take a step back. I mean, April, I've taken a real step back with my income because it got to the point where I couldn't cope anymore. So maybe there comes this point where I have to step back a little bit with the income to be able to go forward again with my income. But I don't even know what I've just said. Guys, that is my journey for being in burnout. My channel is called Back from Burnout. I do not want to constantly be back to burnout. It's not back to burnout, it's back from burnout. And I don't know, I think I'm going to share more of this journey, my burnout journey with you guys. I want to share more about recovery from burnout. I think there's a lot of people in this world that are living in survival mode. There are people that are burnt out. There's people, I want to talk about it a little bit more. You know, as I'm going through it and as I'm trying to recover from it. And I want to talk about the steps I'm going to do to try and make myself heal and bring back my energy and bring back my happiness and bring back my joy into my work. Because if I don't bring back the joy to my work, I'm at the point where I'll walk away. But I don't feel like I've 100% lost my love of doing reselling, but I've lost the love of doing it in survival mode. So I've lost it. I'm well and truly done with survival mode. I'm well and truly finished with that period of my life. It's time to sort my shit. It's time to get out of it. It's time to like move into the next stage of my life. You know, like, gosh, I'm 49 soon. That means I'm nearly 50, guys. I'm about to become a grandma. I've got a good life. I'm happy. I'm happy with my life. I need to find happiness now in the things that I'm doing every day in my life to make my life what it is. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I think this is my cue to go and have some cat snuggles. And I'll see you in the next video.